have fun with it.
It's a collector's item for sure.
Well,
All right. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Patrick.
No, you need to teach.
Ish. All right, let's do one more. Let's do this IQ question, and then we'll move on to something else, which will be, I think, more interesting to you. So we know that the Mensa question is backwards because we've been told that we have to score the top 2% to qualify for Mensa. So where is that going to be? Where is that going to be on the curve? We're given a percentage, 2%. Where is the 2%? On the right, and it's the highest right 2%, yeah? So somewhere, and I'm not exactly sure where, this is the trick. Is it to this side of 3?
No.
Is it to this side of 3?
Yeah.
Now, this is something you don't have to memorize. It has to be to this side of 3. And if you're not seeing why, just remember this. What percentage of data is between -2 and 2? You know the answer to this already. That's 95%, yeah? What percent of data is between -3 and 3? Right, almost 100, just shy of 100, 99.7. I think we found that yesterday, 99.7. So if 99.7 is between here and here, that last 0.3% has to be split to the right of 3 and to the left of -3. That means it's not enough to be 2%. It's too little. So you have to come back this way a little bit to figure it out. Does that, you guys buy that? Now, if you don't have to know exactly where it is. That's why I gave you the program. That's why Kate's ish earlier was adorable. Because you don't have to worry about anything more than ish. This will take care of any precision that we need. All you've got to know is it's got to be on this side somewhere, and it's got to be 2% up there. It's got to be 2%. From that, we can figure everything else out. Now we've got step 1 done. The percentage is given to us. Now we run it through the machine, and we figure out what z-score that corresponds to, which means how many standard deviations above average do we have to
It's
be.
a lot further that way.
It's further that way. I drew it too high. That's cool.
Like it's...
That's okay. And that's why ish isn't that important. It's close to 2. Because if you think about it, if -2 to 2 is 95%, that means 2.5% and 2.5% are outside, which means 2 is pretty far down. But that's okay. Again, ish is good enough as long as you're on the right side and you know it's 2%. So let's run this bad boy again. And let's run it as a backwards problem. There's actually 2 ways you can shade this if you want to. I think the most logical way is to shade right at 2%, but you can also shade left at 98 because you're in the 98th percentile, or higher if you score on this test. So we'll go right 2%, 0.02. 0.02. Here it comes. It's going to drop it in right there, and the z-score, it's kind of hard to see. It's almost right exactly at 2. It's 2.05. There she goes right there. So now we're at step 2. We know that we are here. Z is 2.05, and Kate is 100% correct. It should have been back a lot further than that. And that's great. It just tells us we need to be 2.05 standard deviations above average. But here's where you don't say, okay, go get a 2.05 on an IQ test. That doesn't have a unit yet. There's no unit attached to that. That's where this guy comes in down here. He converts that 2.05 to a meaningful quantity that is then understood contextually. So all we got to do is run through the machine that is the conversion factor. Slot. Actually, I'll just do it right here. Turn this off. So to figure out where we live on this axis, and hopefully you're realizing too that forwards problems go from this axis to this axis, and backwards problems go from this axis to this axis. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. If not, I will. I promise a couple more examples of different contexts that I think will drive it home. So we come down here and we say to ourselves, okay, what IQ score minimally do I need to get so that with an average of 100 and a standard deviation of 15, I end up at 2.05 standard deviations above average? Everybody find that logic? Sorry, the 2.05 is kind of small. But there's your mu plus z times sigma. So you're 2.05 standard deviations above. So that's going to be 100 plus, what's that, 30.75? Did I do that right?
Yeah.
So about 131. We'll call that 131. Go get yourself an IQ score of 131 or better, and they got to let you in. They got to let you in. There you go. There you go. What's interesting about Mensa is they've tied that into SAT tests. You guys have taken SAT tests. There's a certain SAT level above which if you score, you're in the top 2% of SAT, and it's titled, and all it is just a silly little society if you want to join it. But nothing, I shouldn't call it silly. It's just something to do. But that's the score you have to get on an IQ test to get into Mensa.
What do
Boom.
they do? Just sit around and, oh, how high would you
I
like?
have no idea what they do. I'll not tell you. I don't know. I mean, apparently they make puzzle books, I guess, Jackson. So, I don't know what else they do, though. How many of you have heard of Mensa? Okay, let's get half of you. That's cool. Cool? Please, Andrew.
Is it possible to get a perfect score? Is there a perfect score for an IQ?
That's a great question, right? Because if there was a perfect score, that'd be the highest possible score, yeah? And this is one of the limitations, I think, of how IQ is measured. Technically speaking, it's infinite. Because, now technically, not realistically speaking, if a 2-year-old child tests as a 50-year-old adult, that person has an IQ of 2,500, right? Now, realistically speaking, that's not going to happen. But there's no upper limit, so I don't know if we can ever define a perfect IQ score. You can get, I imagine, every question on an IQ test right, but here's what I don't know. I've taken a number of these online. I take them all the time, because I'm a math, grammar kind of guy, so I'm constantly testing at 145, 150, which is ridiculous, because I don't belong up there. But they're biased towards people like me. Like, I'm the person that I'm the audience that an IQ test was designed for. I know I'm getting them pretty much 100% correct. But 150 only puts me out to about here. You'd think that like an ideal score would be out further out here. But if I'm getting them 100% correct, and I'm only getting it 150 or 145, then I'm not exactly sure. I don't think there is a perfect ideal, because I'm not exactly sure how they convert my score into a mental age. They're also sometimes timed. I've seen that too. Like, once you start taking it, they give you a certain amount of time to finish taking them. And I take longer. I take my time through things, and I don't try to rush through them. I know it kind of converts to my whole ADHD thing, but like, I do take my time through that, focus on them. And yeah, Kate, go ahead.
Well, I feel like at a certain age, it starts almost...
Reversing the logic,
yeah.
yeah.
Because I feel like if you're a 2-year-old and you get the age of a 30-year-old mentally, that's probably better than a 2-year-old getting the mental age of a 50-year-old.
Exactly. No, I think in a less extreme case, a 2-year-old that takes an IQ test and tests as a 3-year-old. Now, that's not that hard to believe, is it? A 2-year-old being a precocious 2-year-old testing, that's an IQ of 150. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5, times 100 is 150. That's off the charts. That's off the charts. That's that precocious genius level.
What are they going to be able to do anything on the test?
Right, but I'm 40. If I test as a 60-year-old, therefore I'm off the charts. But I'm not sure, how would you quantify what a 40-year-old knows versus what a 60-year-old knows on an IQ test? I don't think that range means as much as a 2 to a 3-year-old. Now this is me trying to understand what IQ is measuring, which I do not know. I don't know what it's actually measuring. From what I can tell, it's measuring grammar and math ability. But that's because that's what I see these tests as. I see them as pattern recognition. Has anybody ever taken an IQ test before? Anybody ever taken one? They're fun. Take one online. They're free online a lot of times. They're riddled with ads, and they'll send you emails afterwards. But they're fun to take. Just bang one out, find the next character in the sequence, and they give you a bunch of patterns, and you're like, okay, it's turning 90 degrees each time, so this one's going to be here. What's the next number in the sequence? They're kind of fun, kind of goofy. I've got a few of them written around the chalkboards in the math department upstairs, a bunch of IQ kind of little puzzles. What's the next character in the sequence? You know, it tests how flexible your mind is, but I have no idea what that actually means, if that's intelligence or if that's something else. So we can get a discussion with Andrea about this sometime, see what her takeaway is. But enough about IQ. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about human pregnancy. Okay? Let's talk about human pregnancy. That was out loud. Because it gets frustrating. Like, once we quantify it, it's like we can quantify it, but we still don't know what it means, right? We still have no idea what it means. It's kind of frustrating. Because you can talk about these numbers and why we should label the numbers as we label them, but then at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, but it's still kind of opinion. But that's okay. At least we can quantify it. We can leave the interpretation to the experts, like Andrea. All right, so we got to get rid of this too, don't we? Because we're not talking about IQ anymore. What I want to talk about now, let me stop again too.